Well, welcome everybody. It is another edition of Fire Up Wisconsin. You can tell. Can you tell I'm from Wisconsin, and I'm a little excited about talking about Wisconsin? I mean, hey, what can I
Sure.
say?
You got a lot to be excited about when you talk about the Brewers and Bucks.
I do. Well, you have a lot to be excited about. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I'm just
So,
messing.
no, you're fine. You're fine. In fact, I'm going to introduce everybody first. So I have Mr. Jeremy, Smoking Jeremy B, next to me on the side, and then kind of slightly below both of us is Mr. Ralph Williams. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Good evening. How are you today, Candy?
Pleasure to do my first show with you, Candy.
Yeah, it is our first show, isn't it, Ralph?
Yes.
I can tell you I'm having a horrible week. So I'm really looking forward to this show, lightening everybody's spirits and mine included, so I can start the rest of the weekend off the right way.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, thanks, George. He popped in the chat.
Aw, nice. Thanks, George. Have a great show, guys and gal. I love it. He included me. Good job.
That's the way it should be.
That is. Well, we're going to start with our first topic. And I'm going to tell everybody, I'm going to give Jeremy open season because we were supposed to do a preview of when the Packers played the Lions. We didn't. Life happened, and we didn't and couldn't have that show. So, and then we were going to do a recap. And again, life happens. And so now I'm going to give Jeremy the show, and he can talk about that game because I know he loved the outcome of that game.
Well, the outcome is what I expected. And you heard me, Candy. I did say I expected it to be a 2-3 score blowout. And that's exactly what it was. I mean, 27-3 at halftime. The Packers couldn't get out of the gate. Aaron Jones was a shell of what he was before he was injured. I think he came back too soon, which is another reason why he's still injured now. They tried to hold him out for that particular game because they wanted to win that game. They can say, oh, we're rebuilding. Oh, we're doing this. The Packers wanted to win that game because what's the one black mark on Matt LaFleur's record right now? His record versus Dan Campbell and the Vikings. Those are in the NFC North. He has been 500 or less against both teams as of late. And he needed that win. And I feel sorry for him because you saw how mad he was. He thought he had the perfect game plan. And when he went into that presser after the game, I don't think I ever seen steam roll out of a coach's ears so bad in years. I mean, I think the last time was, oh, yeah. Who was it that was coaching the Falcons when they lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl? That's the last time I seen a coach with steam rolling out his ears.
Quinn was the coach in Atlanta. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And he didn't deserve to be fired over that. It wasn't his fault. That offense went stale. It went run, pass. And the run, pass thing is not what they did in the first half. And they should have stuck with what was working because New England couldn't key in on it defensively because they were doing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that one, Jeremy. But Green Bay, Green Bay this year is it's the first year of Jordan Love, obviously. And, they sort of have to, adjust to this because of Aaron Rodgers moving on to the Jets. That's the first problem. The second problem is Matt LaFleur got out-coached by Josh McDonough this last week. I call him Josh McDonough down there in Las Vegas. So for him to get out-coached by that guy, it looks like Green Bay's going to have a tough season.
Green Bay is going to have a tough season. And I said in the beginning of this season that we were going to see what kind of a coach Matt LaFleur is because let's face it, even last year, Rodgers, we didn't have that great of a season.
Right.
We weren't blowing everybody out and winning all those games.
And you can attest a lot of that due to the fact of Aaron Rodgers not playing in the preseason, building chemistry with his wide receivers. The Packers led the league in drop passes from wide receivers, not tight ends alone, just wide receivers with 44 drops. If you add those as completions to Aaron Rodgers' numbers, he had a great year.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And then on top of that, too, Jeremy and Candy, you have to understand, too, Detroit's becoming a better team. And despite the fact they had some losses this year of players because of that scandal, Dan Campbell has changed the culture completely in Detroit. So, that's another story. And then Kevin McDonald over there in Minnesota. But, Minnesota's kind of up and down. They got a really good defensive coordinator there in
but no
Brian
talent.
Flores. And so, I mean, but it's those two teams have sort of improved a little bit in some different ways. That's why Green Bay's having issues with both Minnesota and Detroit.
Yeah, but Minnesota also is a shell of what it was last year. They lost a total of 7 All-Pro / Pro Bowlers off that roster, and that lack of talent is showing. I mean,
Yes.
they beat basically a hapless team.
And this is going to be the year to see what Kevin McDonald's made of. I mean, he had a team talent last year that carried him into the playoffs, and then they blew it in the playoffs. They had a real good regular season too. We're going to find out what he's made of this year. This is his second year, so let's see what second-year coaches sometimes, folks
don't
really,
get a third because when they play this bad, right?
Yep.
But let's stay in the North with another one that's struggling right now. The guy that I like to call Coach Ever Lose, because that's all Chicago seems to do is lose. But they had two.
I like that, Jeremy.
They had 2 good games against teams that are struggling too. Everybody can say, "Oh, look, they're looking great." No, we got the Pillow Fight Bowl coming up this week with the Vikings versus the Bears. One of them has to win. I hope it ends up in a tie and both coaches get fired by the end of the next week. But that's another story.
I don't call him Ever Lose. I call him Ever Fart.
I like Ever Lose because what's his record there? 5, 6, 7 wins now out of the 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And that's actually, hey, kudos to Justin Fields. He got his 7th win by his 30th game. He's only 2 wins behind Jamarcus Russell, one of the biggest busts in the NFL.
Yeah, he was a bust.
I mean, say what you want. He had a really good game the one week, but last week when they played the Commanders, they picked on Emmanuel Forbes with DJ Moore because 8 receptions and almost the whole 200 yards that he threw for went to DJ Moore. DJ Moore had 3 touchdowns and 173 yards receptions in receiving on 8 receptions. The only other members of that team that caught passes were tight ends.
Well, you know something? Chicago's going to start winning games, Jeremy. Chase Claypool's gone.
Yeah, and does that mean the Dolphins start to lose because they traded for him?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's a detractor. He wants targets, but he can't catch the ball. And that's a detractor. And as much as when you have that negative connotation in the locker room, it affects the whole team. And you can even go that far as to the boneheaded penalties on defense on the Packers side of the ball. Look at the boneheaded penalties they've had the last 2 weeks. It's cost their team. What was that? Did I see a play where they called the penalty on everyone but the center? Was that right? Was that right? Wasn't that the Packers?
I don't well, you know what? When they do things like that, I have a term for that. That's called beating yourself. Okay.
Right.
And that's exactly what they did.
The whole jumping over and hitting on that
catching the guy the bottom of his cleat on the center's shoulder when he did it.
Yes.
Yeah, because you're able to jump over them, but you have to clear them. You cannot push off at all, and it doesn't matter if it's just a toe tap.
Right.
You cannot touch the player on the way over.
Oh yeah.
So how would you grade Jordan Love so far?
I'm still going to give him a C overall. He's not the most.
Yeah, likewise.
He's not the most accurate passer, but he's not so bad that he looks like Fields in his first year.
The sad part about it was he sat out all this time, and he really didn't get enough, time to really play in a regular season form.
Let's go back to the last quarterback that sat for 3 years behind a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
he came out and looked just like this. Slightly above mediocre completion percentage, a few way more turnovers than he ever had any year in his career, and not a lot of touchdowns. This is what you get when you have an inexperienced starter. He's played in what, 2.5 games before this?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's not throwing to veteran receivers either.
Right. You got the youngest roster in the NFL. It's
That makes a
you,
difference.
the Chiefs, a couple other teams. Then you got the Lions there. But the difference with the Lions, most of their young players are in their second and third years now versus all being rookies. And
Right.
that makes for a more conducive culture as well. There's a lot going on that's wrong in the Packers, but there's a lot that's right. The one thing they're doing is they're not letting teams pass all over them still. They've got a decent pass defense. They got to learn how to stop the run. I mean, granted, they did great against the running of Josh Jacobs and the Raiders.
Right. But we couldn't block, what's his name? Oh,
yeah, you couldn't block Max Crosby. Max Crosby and Aiden Hutchinson are leading the league in pressures right now. So that's two players that feasted on Jordan Love.
Oh, yeah.
And it shows. And that's the loss of David Bakhtiari.
We're going to be seeing Jordan Love this year. Steelers play Green Bay at home.
Yeah, and I there's a lot of good games coming up for the Packers. Yes. There's a lot of winnable games coming up as long as they're not shooting themselves in the foot. And I got yelled at, and I learned to accept it. Your team cannot put yourself in a position where the refs can steal a win from you. So when that happens, don't cry, don't whine, because I don't want to hear it, because that's what I got told as a Lions fan every time it happened to us. So I don't want to hear it.
You guys had some good coaches up there too, up in Detroit. You had Bobby Ross. You had Jim
Bobby
Caldwell.
Ross is one of the main reasons why Barry Sanders left Detroit. That's a sour note to say. He's been a good coach at other places, but he was not a good fit or coach for Detroit.
Yeah, that's happened to a lot of guys.
So I'm going to say, and I didn't hear many people talk about this, but Monday night when the Packers were playing the Raiders, it was near the end of the game. It was third down. We had 3rd and 10. And we had all of our timeouts left, and we didn't call one. And to be honest with you, I thought Jordan Love looked like he did not know what he was doing. He didn't feel comfortable with the play call. And I'm like, in such a crucial time, I don't care if you had 3 timeouts. Call the timeout to give your offense a chance to reset and figure out exactly what play you want to run. Whether it would be successful or not, give him a chance, though. The fact that he looked rushed and didn't know what he was like, what play really was going to be called, and they weren't all on the same page at that crucial of a moment, that's a coaching error. It kind of goes back to, and I'm going to say this again because I've said it a couple times this week. It goes back to the Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes game, and nobody, not just Mario, none of those coaches said, kneel. Take a knee. Coaches have got to know what they need to do for the players they're coaching.
That's what it makes you want to do. As a fan, with average knowledge, the victory formation is undefeated.
Correct.
Right.
If you are under a minute to play and the other team has no timeouts, even if you don't know if you're going to get the snap in time, you can always call a timeout to stop the clock at 1 second left on the play clock, and then just take another knee.
Exactly.
It's undefeated.
You have 1,000 eyes, Jeremy and Candy. You got guys, up in the press box. You got guys on the side, coaches on the sideline. Some bad game management like that is inexcusable. I mean, you should know that you need to call a timeout, like Candy said, and not, just try to do something. If Jordan Love is that confused, then you need to sit there and go, well, wait a minute, we have eyes here. How come we're not calling a time? Why did somebody up in the press box yell down to Matt LaFleur and say, let's call a timeout?
You had him, and I know we're going to save him for the defense in case, because we're not going to get this. Stop. You have the ball. You got to do whatever you can to stop so you're not giving the ball back to them. I don't care what play. I don't know how many yards, as long as you get your first down.
Packers did what Miami should have done, and Miami did what the Packers should have done. Miami went into a hurry-up offense and trying to hurry up to pad their stats and get another score when it should have been the other way around.
Yep.
Right.
I agree.
Exactly.
And Jordan Love is, God love him. I mean, he's held himself well. And kudos to Matt. Matt LaFleur to not throwing him under the bus.
Mm-hmm.
He
Right.
admitted that the coaching staff did not put him in a good position in the Oakland game. So
Mm-hmm.
that takes a lot of fire off of Love right there and puts it right where it squarely needs to be. That was an organizational and coaching staff failure, is what it was.
Correct.
Well, what I like about it, I respect the fact, like you said, Jeremy, is the fact that he admitted it. There's not too many coaches out here, and I know one in Pittsburgh that will never admit that he's wrong. Okay, all right. When
Mm-hmm.
I'm wrong about something, I come out and say I'm wrong. Okay, I have to give kudos to Matt LaFleur for that because he came
I'm
out and
like
said,
Mike
"Look, I was
Tomlin.
wrong."
I'm
Yeah,
like Mike Tomlin. I once thought I was wrong, but I
yeah,
was mistaken.
yeah. But Jeremy, he never wants to admit he's wrong. He never
I know.
does. Okay. I had a call. We had a college coach at Pitt back in the '90s, early 2000s, named Walt Harris. We used to call him "Not My Fault Walt" because he never took the blame for anything. He always threw his quarterback under the bus.
And then there's the other side of it where there's a coach that'll fall on the sword for every player, no matter how bad they are.
Right.
We need to get back, not only in coaching, but the media does as well.
Oh yeah.
They got to take a responsibility for their own actions.
Yes.
Have I done everything right in my life?
No.
Absolutely not. Can I go back and change it? Absolutely not. You know
Mm-hmm.
what you do? You accept it, you move on. You know what fail is? It's an acronym. First attempt in learning.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yep. I like that. I like that. With that, I can tell you the Packers will not lose this weekend, but
They
they
got
won't win
oh,
either.
wait, Vegas
So
has
you're
them as a
calling a tie
7 point.
too, Candy,
Wait,
like
no, they
Jeremy.
have
It's gonna be a tie.
no. Vegas has them as a 7 point underdog to the bye week.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah. Nice. I've heard that one before. And
Yeah, because it
let's
used to
face
be
it,
said about my team all the time.
it comes actually at a good time. I would normally not say this early in the year. It would be a good time to have it, but we're so banged up that we really need to get some players healthy. And I know that's why they kept Aaron Jones out for against the Raiders, because they knew that with the bye that they needed some time off. Now our first opponent off the bye, I would hope we can beat this team. It is none other than the Denver Broncos.
Right, Candy. You know what? We're getting key players back here in Pittsburgh. We got Pat Firemuth coming back. And some guys got some small injuries that need to heal, and we got Deontay Johnson coming back. So I agree with you, Candy. The bye week is a perfect time to recover from injuries, and it depends on the timing of the bye week too. You gotta if you get one at the end of the year, toward the end of the year, eh, at the beginning of the year when you're getting injuries, that's when you need the bye week.
Yeah.
It's
Any
true. I
other?
mean, the bye week comes at great times in certain situations. Last year, the bye week came towards the end of that horrible run by my team, where we went 1-6. The week before we made our big change, we had our bye week, which was good because we had 9 key players come back from defense after the bye week, but yet we still looked like dog crap versus the Cowboys, which is the main reason why Aubrey Pleasant was fired, is because it wasn't the fact we couldn't stop the run, we couldn't stop them passing. We had our whole secondary healthy other than Tracy Walker with the Achilles tear and couldn't do anything in that game.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I know what you mean.
Okay. Enough NFL. Let's
There you
go
Let's
go.
go.
move on a little bit to the Bucks. They made a big splash about 2 weeks, a week ago, 2 weeks ago in free agency here. 3 teams trade. The Portland Blazers traded Damian Lillard to the Bucks. And in this, the Bucks received Damian Lillard. The Trailblazers, because it was a 3-team with the Suns, got DeAndre Ayton, Tumani Kamara, Jrueholiday, and then a 2029 first-round pick via the Bucks and 2 first-round pick swaps with the Bucks in 2028 and 2030. The Suns received Grayson Allen, Keon Johnson, Nazir Little, and Yusuf Nurkic. So basically, the Bucks lose Grayson Allen and they lose Jrueholiday. Jrueholiday was the defensive player of the year. He was an energetic go-getter, do everything. How do I feel about it? Well, he then was traded from Portland to one of our biggest rivalries, the Boston Celtics. So
that's kind of a slap in the face.
it is. But we needed a shooter because yes, we have Chris Middleton, but he's been injury a lot and he's not as young as he used to be. We had Jrueholiday could shoot, but he was let's face it, we had him there for defense. And Grayson Allen, well, he was just kind of a throw in, and to be honest with you, he's never been one of my high on my list of players. So I think this was overall a good trade. I think Milwaukee is really going to miss Jrueholiday, not just as a defensive player, but him and his wife did so many events around the town and were very philanthropic and helped the community. So they're really going to miss that part of it. You know, and Drew always seemed real bubbly and energy and like he could get the team really going and fired up. I don't know that the same will be said of Damian Lillard, although I've heard very good things about him. I think it'll be very interesting because I know Giannis came out and said, I'm not going to sign another contract until I see from the Bucks organization the willingness to try and go after a championship team. And I think that's exactly what they tried to do with this trade. I think getting Damian Lillard will help.
They dumped a lot of second and third tier bench and role players. So the biggest piece you'll miss is Jrueholiday for his defense.
Right.
But at the same time, the Greek Freak himself has been a defensive player of the year and an MVP. So that being said, there's not much drop off there. And you still got some mid-round picks in the draft to grab somebody to bolster that part of the team. What I do like is Damian Lillard, while he is a shooter, he's also a decent distributor of the ball, which should open up the passing. And it also should open up both the Greek Freak and Lillard to be able to score at will, because they'll be able to pass back and forth to each other.
Yeah, if you have a good point guard in any kind of basketball game that can pass and that can distribute the ball the right way, you can win games. And if the Bucks, it sounds like the Bucks got the best out of this trade. And if a trade, the only way the trade works is if it's good for your team. And it sounds like it's good here, and they're not getting rid of the younger draft picks. They just give away a few here and there. But it sounds like it's a decent trade for the Bucks, and I wish them well.
So my only concern, and this has been my concern for a while, but you get a shooter that can, yes, he can pass the ball around, which is great. Giannis, the only thing is you wanted more players around you to help you get that championship. I need you to work on your free throw shooting because that is the one area that you are not good at. And if you get the ball, all they have to do is follow you. Yep, instead of letting you have these fast breaks into the lane. That is the one part of your game.
I can name 3 big men that they did this to. Mm-hmm. There was Hack-a-Shaq, Bang-a-Ben, Ben Wallace of the Pistons, and now it's Eke the Greek. You know what I mean? If you eke him into a foul and send him to the line, just saying.
Oh, I know.
And everybody knows it. That's the whole problem. Everybody knows it, so everybody knows, especially if it's a close game at the end of the game.
They'll sack one of those bench role players comes in and sacrifices their body while he's driving to the hoop to force him to the free throw line.
Too, the free throws are important, and especially if it's down to the wire and you're down by a point or two and you get fouled or whatever. And it's important that somebody throws free throws, because I've seen teams lose games in all kinds of basketball because of bad free throw shooting. And,
Yep.
and, and
I
that's
mean,
your
your winning
opportunity
teams
to get
usually.
extra points.
Yep. The winning team usually gets about, what is it, 72% free throw or better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's considered for team
Mm-hmm.
average.
Right.
If
Yep.
you got a guy on your team that's averaging less than 50%, that's going to drag down that team average quite a bit.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But all in all, I was really happy with the trade, and I am looking forward to seeing what they can do this year.
Yes.
I think it'll be interesting, especially since there was a lot of movement. So like the Celtics, Smart's not there, and there is just a lot of movement. So I think it'll be very interesting to see who really comes out of the East.
And that's why they got Jrue.
Mm-hmm.
You say what you want. Marcus Smart was a better defensive player than offensive player too. He'd have streaks where he'd get streaky and get hot,
Right.
but he was a better defender.
Too, if you bring players to another team and you trade players off, you have to build chemistry. And it's great that there's a preseason to do that, because right now we're having issues with that in our first game with Pittsburgh Penguins. We just brought in a bunch of guys, but there has to be some chemistry. And so, the preseason will be a good opportunity for the Bucks to check this chemistry out with these new players.
I agree. And I know the Milwaukee fans have already welcomed Lillard. They had a parade. They had over 5,000 fans that came for a little pep rally. So I know they're doing what they need to. Yeah. Well, let's move over. Playoff baseball. Milwaukee Brewers. My beloved team out in the first round, yet they won the Central Division. That was sad.
Yeah, it was. I picked Milwaukee to go to World Series. I did.
So, was the season a success or a failure? Jeremy.
The Milwaukee Brewers had a successful season. They made the playoffs. Yes, they didn't get as far as they wanted. But didn't they get to retain Counsell for another year as manager? For coaching the team?
I believe they did. But I heard a rumor. I had a guy on my radio show from Cleveland, and he told me that the Guardians are looking at Craigcounsell. So we'll see.
Yeah, but he already committed, and he kind of has a good salary there. I doubt he leaves, plus his family's there.
Yeah, I don't know what the Guardians are paying these guys or whatever.
Craigcounsell is a free agent.
Oh, is he? They didn't retain him.
They didn't.
Remember that?
They've tried.
Okay.
They have talked to him. He has not made a decision because he also has 2 college-age kids that are playing ball, one in Michigan and one in
Iowa.
I think something like that. So they're different. So the question was, and it's rumored that he wants to take time off to be able to spend time with his family and see his sons play. So that's an unknown.
So it's in limbo.
It is in limbo. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that rumor's out there because, like I said, I had a guy on. I was on a show. I'm sorry, not my show. I was on a show Wednesday night or Wednesday afternoon on Beaver County Radio, the same station that I have my show on. I was on a show called Hey Peanuts, and they had a guy on from Cleveland that he was talking about the Browns and the Guardians, and I asked him. I said, "Who's one of the front runners?" And he said Craigcounsell's name has come up. I heard Don Kelly, our bench coach here with the Pittsburgh Pirates. I heard his name floated too. So we're going to find out where they go with that. But
I know
I'd hate
that name.
to see Milwaukee lose Counsell. He's a good manager. I mean, he's made it into the playoffs. And Milwaukee ended up getting Carlos Santana, who helped Milwaukee out. So we'll see what goes from there.
I agree. So, an interesting fact, and I don't know that you guys know this. Every team to beat the Brewers in the postseason has advanced to the World Series.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
87 Cardinals, the Phillies, the 2011 Cardinals, the Dodgers, the Nationals, the 2020 Dodgers, the 2021 Braves, and now the 2023 D-backs because they won their series. They beat us, and now they swept the Dodgers too.
Yeah.
Go Diamondbacks. Thank you. Yeah. Because you know what? Clayton Kershaw, as good as he was, watching him with the Great Lakes Loons when I lived up in Bay City, because that's their single A affiliate. I am so happy that to see that he had his one good year and then fell apart in the playoffs again.
Well, the Dodgers always lay an egg in the playoffs, Jeremy. I was teasing my friend Mark
Didn't they just win a World
time.
Series not too long ago, and that got the monkey off of Kershaw's back is what I'm getting at? I'm saying I'm glad to see them go back down, because normally once somebody does that, aka Justin Verlander, they don't regress in the playoffs anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Justin Verlander has been like lights out this season right now for the Astros, and I'm happy to see him back there, but I kind of wanted to see him do it with the Mets, because that'd have been a super team if they could have got that pitching together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Mets fire Buck Showalter. We'll see where they go.
See, there's rumors that Stearns is going to bring Counsell to New York, because David Stearns is out there too. That could, I mean, there's a lot of rumors that are going around.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Oh, when you fire a manager, Candy, there's always rumors with different stuff. I hear rumors here all the time about different things, especially when a coach is either fired or goes bye-byes or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, any other thoughts on the Brewers?
I think they'll have another good year as long as they can.
Because you guys always beat us anyway, so it doesn't matter.
So I have to ask, did the Steelers dump the Matt Canada Nagy playbook yet?
I'm not sure. We have a guy that we signed to work as an offensive assistant named Glenn Thomas. He came from Arizona State, worked under Herm Edwards. He got fired after the Herm Edwards debacle down there. I heard he's starting to call some plays. Matt Canada doesn't look like a happy camper, so I'm assuming there's something going on. But right now, my sources tell me nothing yet, and it probably won't be anything done with Matt Canada until the end of the year.
Well, there's a report that comes out of the Las Vegas, Nevada Herald here that they might be looking to replace him with John Gruden.
Yeah, Gruden and Mike Tomlin are friends. They've coached together, and
I'm quite sure that little email that went to the Commanders might have got to Tomlin's desk too, because they're friends.
I would like to see John Gruden come here, Jeremy and Candy, and I'll tell you why. First of all, Mike Tomlin's at the end of his career. This will be his 18th season. Okay. He hasn't accepted a new contract extension. He has one more year left on his current contract. And he's made comments on the podcast that he might think of stepping down, because I think it's, coach all these years, you want to step away a little bit. He might be getting burned out. I know he has two sons in college that play for two colleges. One plays for Boston College, Dino, and his other son, I can't remember his name, plays for Princeton or Yale or one of them, or Penn. He plays for Penn, University of Pennsylvania. So he might want to step away and spend time, with his grandkids, future grandkids or whatever. And I don't blame him. Bill Carr did the same thing. And what these media jobs are paying now, I'd step away too.
Oh, yeah. A lot less stress.
Definitely. Look at what these folks are getting paid, Candy and Jeremy. They're getting paid all this big money. I'd step away from coaching. Why stay up 18 hours a day or whatever, and sleep in my office and all that other stuff?
I'm still waiting for that season-ending injury to happen to Jimmy Garoppolo that's happened the last 2 years in a row, because I want to see if Tom Brady's going to call his own number to be the first owner, player, coach.
We'll see.
We were talking last night on the Sports Exchange how Al Michaels is making $1 million in a show on Amazon Prime,
and he's been dogging it.
And Brock Purdy's only making $876,000 for the whole year. Yeah. So, you tell me media isn't making some money.
Yes,
obviously,
and San Francisco has Purdy on his first contract,
right?
So that's a bargain.
Oh yeah. And when his contract comes up, there's going to be a steep payday. That
Oh yes, absolutely. Yes.
And I understand that Purdy's doing great and everything else, but after watching that game the other night, they're kind of protecting him a lot too, to keep him from looking like a young quarterback. Like when they beat the Dallas Cowboys 42-10. Yes. He only threw 10 passes.
What's
Mhm.
that?
He only threw 10 passes the entire game.
Wow. Well, that's
He
because
was 7 to
McCaffrey's a
10.
good running back, and as long as he's healthy and the line
7 to
holds up,
10, 182 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
All 3 of them to Kittle.
Mhm.
yeah, Kittle,
And
he has weapons.
oh
You
yeah,
know,
but
I
I thought
saw it in
that
the
was
Steeler game. He has weapons down there. That's
yes, he
another thing.
does. Yeah, I mean,
If you're a young
49ers.
quarterback and you got a good coach like Kyle Shanahan and you got weapons, you can really make something happen.
I think they could take Mac Jones and be successful. That's how good that system
Yes.
is to quarterbacks.
Yes.
I
All
agree.
you need the quarterback to do is manage the game, Jeremy. And if you can run the football and play action, you can win.
Well, guys, I think time now for our parting shots. I don't know if you each have one, but I'm
Let him go
gonna.
first.
What?
You can let him go first.
Okay, parting shots, Ralph.
Well, you asked me about Matt Canada, and it's so bad here that my parting shot is Mike Tomlin was at the hockey game the other night with the Penguins and the Blackhawks, and everybody in the whole arena yelled "Fire Canada." So it's become a trend around here. They're even making shirts. They're hanging up signs. They're making hats. Fire Canada. Pat McAfee has said Fire Canada. It's become a national thing. Snoop Dogg says Fire Canada. So it's become a big thing. Matt Canada is one of the most hated people around. They're even making targets here and for shooting targets with Matt Canada's face on.
That's awesome.
So when you go to the firing range or whatever. So that's my parting shot. Matt Canada. If I'm Matt Canada, I put a bag over my head because I'm going to tell you what, I wouldn't want to show my face anywhere. That's my parting
we
shot.
got a Blake Lazinski coming in saying, "Let's go Chiefs." Speaking of which, let's do a little score update. Oh, they are up 13-3 or 13-0 in the third quarter over the Broncos, which it looks like they're going to win by the 9.5 points. So I'm not winning my bet because the Chiefs haven't covered the spread against a couple of other bad teams already. So I bet against them tonight. But my parting shots is, I love football and I pay attention to all of it. And the Packers need to do something that the Lions did. We had some overpaid talent that wasn't doing their job in the run defense, and we got rid of them. We gutted them and added players, whether they were young, old, whatever. We added them into this lineup, and we went from the 30th run defense, and in the last 5 games, for the first time since 1939, the Detroit Lions defense has only given up 342 rushing yards over 5 games. And we've went up against some good running backs. Isaiah Pacheco. We've all talked to the assistant running back coach of that team this offseason, Torrey Harmon, on here.
Mm-hmm.
Bijan Robinson, who was being heralded the next Bo Jackson coming out of college, which that's pretty big shoes to fill. But he looked like it the week before when he played against the Packers, and he got 22 yards against Stars. Aaron Jones, another top 15 running back from the year before. And now this past week, Chuba Hubbard last year ran for almost 170 yards himself against Detroit. And we held him to under 50 yards. That's some pretty good talent to hold down. And say what you want. Run defense, if they can't run the ball, they can't control the clock. If they can't control the clock, they more than likely cannot win the game. And that's what the Packers need to do with their defenses, shore up that run defense.
Well, they need to fire Barry, but that's a whole other topic.
They needed to fire Barry before they hired him because, God, we saw him in Detroit and he was horrible.
Yeah. Wow. He didn't get any better, jumping over Lake Michigan, But my parting shot happens to be the same as I had last night. It doesn't have anything to do with Wisconsin, but it's prayers for Mary Lou Retton, who has the gymnast that has a very rare form of pneumonia and is fighting for her life in an ICU and can't breathe on her own. She brought gymnastics back to relevance for women's sports back in '84. Her will and her toughness and that cute little smile. Like, she just lit it up. Prayers to her. She's my age. And I can't imagine fighting for my life with pneumonia in ICU right now. And she doesn't have health insurance.
Wow. I think
someone that did that much for her country.
Something coming in for her, isn't that correct, Candy?
They have set up a fund, and there is a bunch of money. It's not a GoFund. It's called it's another type of fund. I don't remember exactly, but yeah. So you can contribute to it, but my prayers go out to her.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, that's a shame.
It is. Well, guys, this has been really, really fun. I got to talk to my teams. Yay!
Yeah. It was great to see you again, Jeremy, and it's great first show with you, Candy. Thank you for having me.
It has been. Ralph, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
Oh, yeah, Ralph Williams 737@gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and I'm on Twitter X platform. I have my own YouTube channel, and I have my own radio show on Beaver County Radio in Western Pennsylvania, 99.3 FM, 12:30 AM, Sports Corner, every Tuesday, 5 to 6 p.m. with me, Ralph Williams, and Smoking Jim Frazier.
Wow, that messed me up. I heard you say smoking, and it started with a J. Hey. I was like, wait, he didn't say Jeremy.
And maybe someday, Jeremy, we can, Smoking Jim can meet you.
Absolutely.
Talk with you. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, Jeremy, how can everybody find you?
I'm everywhere. No, I'm just kidding. You can find me on the SouthFloridaTribune.com under the Motor City Tribune heading, where you can see my writings about the NFL and mostly the Detroit Lions. You can also find me on this channel whenever I'm needed. I will be there, especially on Fire Up Wisconsin. And then you can also find me on my channel, which is Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions, because if you put Detroit Lions or the name of an actual football team in its entirety, your page can be shut down, as a few found out on YouTube, because the NFL is starting to crack down on franchise infringement. So watch out, podcasters. Try to keep your stuff original. It doesn't matter even if it's an old name of a press clipping that they used to put in the newspapers back in the 1950s. A buddy of mine had one called the Detroit Lions Forum, and that was an actual column by the only NFL writer that covered the Lions, and he called it the Detroit Lions Forum, and because of that, his page was shut down and he was demonetized. So please beware. Demonetization is happening. Be careful. If you're airing the video, don't play one lick of the sound. If you're airing the sound, don't air the commercials, because half of the jingles have copyrighted music and they'll get you for that. So you can do one or the other. You cannot do both.
We were at a baseball game. It was a minor league game, and we were interviewing during batting practice one of the PR guys, and in the background was the music, and we couldn't. I had to then take the audio out. I had to take the music out of the audio, put the audio back in, and then I could publish it on YouTube. A lot more work than really, it warranted. But I agree. Be careful.
Yeah, editing's not easy, Candy. I can't do it. I have issues with my arms because I have two pinched nerves in my neck, so it's hard for me to do all that tedious editing. I'm trained to do it, and I know how to do it, but it's very hard for me. I have others to do it for me.
I have troubles editing my words before they come out my mouth half the time too.
Okay, well, I've got to do the plug for the South Florida Tribune, because that's where you're finding us right now. If you liked this episode, we have so many other shows. There's a red subscribe button next to Ralph. Please hit that red subscribe button. Like us, share us, tell everybody else about it. If you like the NFL, we have Inside the Pigskin. If you like baseball, we have 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. If you like to talk about all the different sports, we have Sports Exchange. We have Pundit's Pundit. We have No Limits, which we had a great episode last night. It was Mel Farr Jr. talking with Jennifer Lee Cobb. She's a former NFL cheerleader with a former NFL player, and Scott, and they talked about Parkinson's disease.
I saw that.
That's her cause.
That last night.
Yeah, her dad had it, and I didn't know that Oh, I'm trying to think who all else has it. Obviously, the guy from the hockey just stepped down because he was diagnosed with it.
Barry
Tim,
Melrose.
yes, Tim
Mhm.
Tebow's dad has it. That
Mhm.
we found out and stuff like that. So yes, so go check out No Limits. That's a great show too. We have all kinds of great shows. Like us, subscribe, please. We're striving for 1,000. I would love to see that 1,000. We're over 950, so we're getting close. But we also run a website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can find writing like Jeremy's, Scott's, George Eichhorn. You can find transcripts if you like the Dolphins, if you like the Jags or the Lions. We get the transcripts in there. We throw them up. We have a writer that talks about college football. So if you like college football, go see Rich Eldridge's comments. We put stuff up because we go to hurricanes. We cover the hurricanes and we put up their videos on our YouTube channel. Go check those out. If you like to listen to podcasts, listen to us. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, but iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, Google. If you want to sponsor our show or advertise our show, call Scott 954-304-4941. He is going to be releasing a book called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It's a book that Scott's writing. It's about old school media versus new school media and how it's changed over the years. We're hoping to have it out hopefully beginning to mid-November. Guys, this has been absolutely so much fun. I really enjoyed having you guys tonight. Thanks for coming and indulging me.
Sorry to interrupt, Candy, Jeremy. By the way, I forgot to mention Scott will be on my radio show on the 24th of October to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars because the Steelers are playing the Jaguars. And I always bring somebody on from the opposite team. So Scott's coming on to talk about the Jags.
Nice.
Well, I do know one thing. The only way the Lions get to play the Steelers is if it's in the Super Bowl. And if that happens, I'd love to be on there.
Oh, absolutely. I'll bring you on, Jeremy. And I'll be in touch.
Hey, I didn't say when it happens.
Somebody to come on, a reporter to come on and talk something. You know, if Pitt's playing Miami or something, you know, I'll have Scott come on or one of you guys something. Yeah, I'll be in touch with that.
So, sounds great.
Absolutely.
You're welcome
Thanks,
to come
guys.
on my radio show anytime.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Catch us on the next show. Night, everyone.